much love to you. Do you want to hear a very interesting story? Interesting story for me, and very personal and intimate story. I'm still thinking whether I should speak about it or not, because it is something very intense of what I have lived. Not long ago, 2 years ago I think. If you remember my Chiric Sanango experience in the jungle, you remember those videos when I took the master plant Chiric Sanango, that is a root of one jungle tree, and when I was feeling so cold, and I was in the jungle, with this hat, with this cap for the winter, and my scarf and a lot of clothes. Do you remember those videos? How this experience had ended, I never spoke about, because that was a very strong experience. You have the first videos about it, how it went. But after a few days, it went more and more intense, and it was a really very, very strong experience, the Chiric Sanango one. Too long to narrate it all, so many things I understood there. But let me go to one of the most important things when I have learned, one of the most intense experiences within those days that I had. After finishing to drink Chiric Sanango, I thought that the next day the experience would go down. I was drinking it for like 6 days or something, and I was having experiences. But then when I stopped drinking it, I thought that okay, now it will go down, and now I'm going back to, say, this world. But it wasn't the case. When I stopped drinking it, the experience started to get more and more intense. It was just crazy. I started hearing Icaros, the, say, mantras or chants that are not heard by physical people who had been there, where I was at that time. They couldn't hear anything, but I was hearing things happen. I was seeing things. The last 3 days after stopping to drink it, 2 or 3 days I hadn't slept for a single second. I just could not. I was totally alert, a lot of energy, aware of, like I said, those Icaros, seeing things, seeing, let's say, spirits. Like the whole perception limitation would expand, and I would find myself in this, what the hell is going on here? At one time I said to myself, I'm going to look into the mirror, into my eyes. Before I actually started the Chiric Sanango diet, I already knew what I wanted. I wanted to heal my knees. I had them really bad. And I wanted to face some things of myself. Some people would tell me over the years, different people, that they see something in my eyes. Some kind of, they would say, cold. And me, my sadness. And me, myself, I sometimes looking into my eyes, or, well, many times, I would see this sadness from my past in my eyes. I have done a lot of meditations around that, looking into the mirror and observing my eyes and trying to get it, to the real thing. But I never went that deep as I had on Chiric Sanango. So I said, I'm going to look into the mirror. I'm going to face this thing. I'm going to look into my eyes, and there are some things there, I thought. I remember I got into in the hammock, and I took this mirror, maybe this big, and I started looking into my eyes. Closely, deeply, and I started seeing. This time with Chiric Sanango, with my perceptions more open, I started to see something more and more in my eyes. It was sadness, it was a boy, me, who didn't want to say something, a boy who had seen something but didn't want to say about this. He had never spoken about it. A boy who had witnessed something very unfair, very cruel, but who is afraid to speak about it, who never spoke about it, and who still holds on all of that memory, that trauma within himself. This is what I saw. And looking into these eyes, into this boy, into this me from my past, a little Dolama, a little Mantas. My name is Mantas. I said to myself, I said to those eyes, to that boy, to myself, to the mirror, I said, please show what has happened. I need to know. I want to help you. And I kept on looking in the mirror. But those eyes, they didn't want to. They felt really, afraid, holding, not wanting to let it go, not trusting, maybe, not trusting. And I would continue looking into my eyes, into the eyes of that boy, of me, sending my love. And I say, trust me, I love you, show me what has happened. I love you, and I will not let anything to happen to you. At that moment I started to feel something. And now, as I am speaking about this, I remember shivers in my spine, cold, and I start to feel a different entity. Not me, let's say a demon, or a trauma, or a memory, what has happened. And I feel it as how to express it. Let's say a demon. Maybe it is easier to express in this case. And I let this demon come through my face. That past memory come through my face. What has happened? The boy me, had showed me the experience, and you want to see it? It was something like this. Don't become afraid. Everything is under control. Don't be afraid. So I saw this kind of, it was like exorcism, exorcism. And in the mirror I started to see this, what you have seen now, something similar, but more intense. Now it was just actuation. An actor. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. I had mucus in my nose and they just shoot it, you know, all the mucus, bam, and I had my mirror. I had it like this angle as I was in a hammock, and the mirror was with all of my nose contents and hair, just so much. But I kept on looking in the mirror, and I kept on seeing this in my mind, saying, show yourself, show it to me. And then the eyes were really different. The eyes were very kind of demonic, and I was looking into the eyes, concentrating not on the face, nose, on the eyes, to see who is this. I was angry within myself. I knew that this demon or whatever had inflicted this trauma on the boy me, on those sad eyes. Do you remember? And I had so much, and I have so much compassion for that boy that, you know, if somebody attacks your son, you don't care, you just go, you can go against the devil. Would you? So I was really intense looking into those eyes. I don't want this demon to run away. I don't want to miss him. I want to face him right now, because it's unfair what he has done. Entertaining story? You wanna me to continue? It's a very intense story for me, and now you will see why. I kept on looking into those eyes, and then it changed his face, and he said, Ei tu, į galvą nori. Ei tu, į galvą nori is Lithuanian saying. In Lithuanian it means, hey you want to your head? Meaning you want me to beat you? You want me to beat you? It is like an aggressive expression in Lithuania. At that moment, at that second, when this fucking demon showed itself to me with these words, Ei tu į galvą nori, in that second I remembered and I understood. It was an enlightening experience of something very big. I was a boy. I had maybe 5 years, I don't know. I was a very shy boy. And I remember I went outside the house. We lived in the city. And I was alone. My parents had left me or something. I was alone. And this boy, there was a very aggressive boy who was maybe 10 years, I don't know, of age. A street kid who was very aggressive with everybody, even with adults, you know, insulting everybody. He frightened me. He attacked me and he said, Ei tu į galvą nori. He said this. He said this. He inflicted a big trauma upon me. For the first time in my life, I faced, say, violence in my life. Aggression towards me, direct aggression, and I didn't know what to do. It was the first time that I had faced this thing, and so strong, and I was a boy. It was just boom, you know, a big bang to your, I don't know, a shock, very shocking experience. And that boy insulted me, and then he said, you will not say about this to your parents. If you say what has happened here to your dad is afraid of me, I will kill your dad. This is what he said. That if I tell my parents about this or anybody, he will kill my dad. I was 5 years, or I don't know how old I was. I believed in him. I didn't speak about this to my parents. It was a big trauma for me. Very shocking experience. And I hold this onto me because I really thought that something bad will happen to my father. And with this, what has happened psychologically, emotionally, is that I stopped trusting my parents. My parents as a figure of somebody who can help you and save you had kind of disappeared. Now my parents couldn't save me, couldn't protect me. Now I was unprotected, and I kind of lost my trust in my parents. And with this, a big psychological trauma had happened because a gap arose between me and my parents. Since that moment, I wouldn't speak to my parents of what would happen to me. My parents would ask me, well, how was your day in the school or kindergarten or something? And I would say, yes, it was good. I would never speak about anything that had happened. And it was for years. My parents wouldn't know much about myself. I would never speak about it, and there was always a gap between me and my parents, especially my father. I couldn't feel myself proud of him for many years, up to this moment when I saw this. This is where I understood. It was just after so many years. And I understood that. I remember that every time I would hear, back in my country, in Lithuania, every time I would hear this expression, these words, this phrase, "Ei tu į galvą nori," I would kind of become like this, tense. I would become, frightened. Before I started my meditations, before I started my spiritual path, when I was back at school, and it was something very common, but I was never aware of that. Every time I would hear this phrase, I would go tense, Do you see? One trauma, and it affects the life so much. My relationship with my parents, my relationship with myself. At that moment, when I saw this demon saying this, I remembered it all. It was like a snap. Whew. I felt, what did I feel? I feel not certain anger, let's say anger of God. Not a negative type of anger, but justice type of anger. I took this demon face off. I could control myself. And with my face, very serious face, like maybe now, my eyes very strong, I look into those eyes. I think the eyes were still the same, the demon ones. And I say, you will never, ever again do this again anymore. Now you will run away from this one, from this body. And you go to your place. You will not attack or affect anybody else. I said it very strongly, feeling this justice within myself very strong. And then I let the demon come in again. This type of thing, you know, like like a frightened dog running away, afraid. I exorcised this demon, or if you want to say it in different ways, faced this past trauma. So it was basically like an exorcism, like what you see in those movies. When I see those movies, exorcism, it makes me smile. It's funny. Because these guys, they have no idea of what it is. I don't think they have any idea, these actors, what it is like, you know, to face these things. It was real. In my case, it was very real, and this demon ran, or this trauma had left, and I was back in me. I was always in me, right? But now I felt, at the same time, I felt as if a big stone that was on my heart would have fallen down. A burden that I was carrying for so many years was no more. I felt, oh, like this, and at the same time I felt tired. Felt, oh, now I would need some rest. It was intense. It was intense. What do you think? What do you say? You believe what has happened? It was a very liberating experience. To tell you short, after this one, I found more within myself, more demons or traumas, and I kept on facing things from my childhood, other things, but traumas that were not as strong as this one, or demons that were not as strong. Getting rid of them. After this Chiric Sanango experience, and this experience, and then in a few days, I was getting back to kind of normal, you know, perception and everything. There was a big change in me, and this actual experience that I have told you had brought me a very big change that had started a big reconciliation, acceptance of my father happened to me. Many times I would burst out of tears, seeing within myself, Father, I love you. Father, I'm proud of you. Saying to my father that I couldn't accept him maybe because of this for so many years. And now I could, and it felt so good, so beautiful, you know. I have cried a lot. My eyes and face was red more than a few times. And it felt so good to say, Father, I'm proud of you. Father, you have loved me. Father, you were with me. It brought such a connection of me with my father, and I wrote him an email saying thank you, Dad, for all of the things, and I'm proud of you. And we spoke on Skype, and wow, that was a beautiful, beautiful thing, and that made me understand my dad like never before. And also symbolically or not symbolically, not a coincidence that I was also to become a father. In a few months my son Corey was about to be born, and I felt that this happening that I have solved had also solved something with me and my son. That if I hadn't solved this trauma, it would have continued on with me and my son, and also there would be some, gap between me and my son. So solving it within myself with my dad, also I solved it in the next generation, my son. Many understandings that came with this, many understandings, accepting many things and realizing so many things. This video is going to be too long. I have to end it. So I have told you about one of the more or most intimate experiences I have had, and it is not experience about myself, but it is also your experience, because each of us, we have those traumas that we have this unconsciously decided to forget, not to face, and we are carrying that burden, that trauma, or that past event within ourselves. We are carrying this burden, and it is affecting our lives in a very bad way. So it is a part of a spiritual path to face those things, to face that past, and to solve that, to send love to yourself back in time, and this will change our lives so much, as you see my life changing. Have you been afraid of me when I was acting? I could be a good actor or not? No, that memory is still alive within me. Thank you for watching the video. My love to you.